Okay. Hi, everyone. Happy May. Um, I have my notes here on the side so that I don't get sidetracked because I feel like if you haven't met me personally or we haven't worked together, I can easily get sidetracked. My brain kind of works in dominoes and one thing leads to another. So before we get started, hi, thank you so much for joining. Just wanted to introduce myself and what I typically do on this live. So I am Miriam Raquel Sands. I am a holistic career and lifestyle guide. What that means to me is that I help purpose-driven, kind of mission-driven professionals who are feeling kind of stuck, lost in their careers, find their passion again, find their purpose. I don't know if people still use the word purpose often, but they find their meaning, their joy in their work. So I consider myself a kind of way shower, pathfinder. I've dedicated myself, I would say, over 10 years, over a decade, in finding my path. Um, Thank you. Finding my path, working in so many different industries and work environments, nonprofit, government work, contractor, freelance. Pre-COVID, it was in office. Post-COVID, I've done hybrid, completely remote. I've worked with people who are 2, 3 times my age. I'm in my 30s. I've worked with people from every continent except Australia. I speak 2 languages. I've been working with people who are from multiple backgrounds. So I consider myself an expert and someone who is well acquainted with the workforce and how to create our own path. Because I think, oh, sorry, sorry about that. Um, but yeah, I think that it's so important to be able to create our own path because, I think so much of the rhetoric nowadays, or who knows how long it's been, is if you go to school and if you get a certain degree, you can land X job. And then if you get that job, you can get certain benefits and have a certain career. I don't know if it's always worked that way, but certainly things do not work that way now. There's so many things to consider. There's so many things happening, and I think that one thing that is really missing is the kind of reconnection, that redefinition for ourselves of what it is that we want for our lives, our lifestyles. Oh, thank you so much. I painted them myself. Thank you. Um, because yeah, I think it's so hard. It's easy to just get into the monotony of things. And then we don't, something kind of happens. I call it like a work disaster, natural disaster, where, that's kind of the crisis. We start to question I'm not really where I want to be in my career. Sure, there are benefits, and sure, there's a lot of things that I should be thankful for, but I'm really not feeling fulfilled. For those of us, again, my primary audience, those of us who are purpose driven, mission driven, and so it hits that roadblock. So again, one of the primary offers that I do provide is called the Remember Who You Are. And it's a 1 month package where we do dive deep. We do dig deep. You meet once a week with me, so you get 4 sessions. And really, you get that space. You get that space to check in with yourself, see if your path is the path that you want to be going down. What are other options? And me as a spiritual person, bringing in that kind of spiritual emotional element that is missing, I think, in typical career programs. So that's a little bit about me. I also host a podcast. So something I do offer, it's completely free to those of you who really want to share your journey, is being my guest. So there's a link in my bio. to my Google Calendar, where if you'd love to share your career journey with others who are interested in these sorts of topics, please consider being my guest. And we'll talk virtually. I'll ask you questions about how you got to be to where you are, what helped you, what didn't, and all sorts of things. So I think those are all of my main kind of announcements. And for those of you who haven't met me or worked with me, hopefully that's good context. So something I always do on these Instagram lives is I typically share from this book called Journey to the Heart. And each page has its own, is for each day, like each day has its own message. So I like to use this because whenever you are on an Instagram live with me, you never know what message you're gonna get. I guess it's like a fortune cookie thing. So let me quickly get to May 6th because I didn't have that out yet. Okay, so the message, okay, just reading. Okay, sorry. So the message for today is stay open to life. I have a tendency to be dogmatic. If I have an experience that's unpleasant, I take a firm stand and say, I'll never go through that again. I'll never do that again. If something frightens me or I don't understand it, I'll push it away. Won't even consider it. That won't work for me, I say, sometimes before I know whether it will or not. Being dogmatic shuts us down and can shut life out. The universe will challenge our prejudices, though. Without being certain how it happened, we may find ourselves doing the very thing we thought we never would. Liking it and hearing a quiet voice, the one that comes from our heart, asks, what do you think now? When we're open, we'll find ourselves doing things, sharing things, experiencing things, and liking things we never thought we would or could. So open your heart, open your mind, open to life and all it holds for you. Let the dogma dissolve. Great, thank you. Yeah. So I really like this book, Journey to the Heart. Again, I think for those of you who don't know my background, I did a yoga teacher certification. I mean, who hasn't at this point? But this was one of the books that they recommended when I did the training. And yeah, I don't know the author's background, but I think she did something in psychology, and it's a very mindful, very short. She takes pieces of her own life and then she adds a meditation to it. So yeah, I'll have it mentioned in the description. And yeah, something that I think that really speaks to, I don't know if dogma specifically, but like I think that's something that speaks to where we are now as in terms of career and maybe in terms of society, is that kind of fear of the unknown, of kind of sticking to what we know, or understanding things in the way that we were told or in the way that feels more comfortable for us. And it's hard. Like, it's hard, and I don't think that there's necessarily one way to go about trying to find our path. I mean, clearly, I clearly have a stance on us. Oh, excuse me, burp. I just had lunch. I think there's many ways that we can all find our path and create one that's meaningful to us. But that openness, it looks different for everyone. I think it's hard to find that balance sometimes of, like, if you're in a work environment that isn't as open to, let's say, creativity or the hybrid environment or collaboration. Hi, thank you for joining. And so that's the challenge, is figuring out what is that balance of openness wherever we are on our journey. And yeah, I think that being able to take things our own pace, being able to check in with ourselves, where are we on our journey? Is the priority right now the family or the friends, the health? Because sometimes we take jobs so that we can survive and get benefits. And that's a very reasonable, like logical answer. But sometimes, and for a lot of the clients that I work with who are purpose driven and mission driven, that can get very challenging, because it's almost like we have to choose, or we do choose, between our passion, between what we really want, and what we're doing, what we're sacrificing for our loved ones. So that's the challenge. And there's no one way. I feel like we're all in different... Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now better? My volume is all the way up. I apologize. Hopefully with the replay, it'll be okay. So yeah, I think that it's just taking things one step at a time, being able to figure out, you know, in this moment in time, what is it that I am willing to let go of? What is it that is a non-negotiable? Or if we're able to have, you know, a safety net, something that we can really stand on our own with, whether that be savings or loved ones' support network that can hold space for us. You know, those are the things that help us create our path and help us develop that openness. So like the message in the book said, there's less dogma, there's less restriction, and we can slowly start to kind of piece together and kind of find deep within that purpose, that meaning, whatever it is that kind of gap for us. So yeah, I hope you can hear me okay still. Sorry, I didn't want to lose my train of thought there. But yeah, did you all have any questions for me? Is there anything I can answer? Or I usually just kind of run on a tangent with my messages with the meditation book. But if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to respond and see how I can provide any other support. Okay. Well, give me a thumb up, down, or something if you can hear me okay. And so, yeah, I think ultimately that's really the kind of beauty to some extent, you know. It's hard. It's not that... Oh, you can? Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you. I see that you can hear, so okay. So I think that's the beauty of things nowadays, that there is so much openness, you know, if we do have that support mentally, emotionally, like within ourselves first and foremost, but then also if we have the support within the people and the places and the resources to kind of hold that ground for us. Okay, cool. Thank you. Then I think that's really the beauty of where we are in time and space and society now, is that we do have the flexibility. We really can take the steps and move the pieces around as we see fit, whether that is doing different jobs. I remember having, I don't recommend this, but I remember having 2 jobs at the same time because I was trying to figure out, do I want to stay in the yoga world, or did I want to be a technical writer? I took a job one time as a physical therapy admin, so I worked at a clinic, because I wasn't sure of becoming a physical therapist, a doctor in physical therapy. Now at the time, no dogs, no big responsibility, not married, like all of those things helped. But I think at the biggest piece is that openness, that not as risk averse, leaning towards taking a chance, that gamble. Because even though we don't know, or I didn't know what was going to be on the other side of that decision, and 6 months I was in that role of physical therapy admin, it was quite hard. The people in that work environment weren't as open and weren't as collaborative, weren't friendly. So it was a hard 6 months, but it was helpful. And I think that those are the things that if we're willing and we're open, yeah. I mean, I was younger. The question I saw, how can you cope with two jobs? So I feel like some people have to do it, unfortunately. I did it because it was more of me figuring out what career I really wanted. And before taking the time or investing, getting into debt, and committing into, the whole physical therapy program, I was like, okay, I don't want to go back to school again. So let me just see if I'm even okay in that environment. So it was hard. I was just coping. I think it was really just surviving during that time. But I think it was really useful because first, I think no one can take away from people's experiences. That's something that we start to learn for ourselves, what works for us, what needs need to be met for us. And then two, that's a very quick way versus reading about it and I think theorizing what the jobs or what scenarios might look like. I think it's easy sometimes to just kind of stay in our heads. But if we're in that experience and we're like embodying it, our body is in that environment, interacting with whatever it is we're choosing in that moment, then that's a real clear answer. So yeah, I think it was in that moment I was really just coping and just trying to figure out what my next steps would be. And I still love health and like anatomy and oh, there we go. Sorry, you guys. And I still think that the body is a very important tool. But I realized that physical therapy is not the route for me. And so yeah, so it was a really useful experience. Which goes back to, I guess, the message from the book about being open, not having that, oh, thank you. I try my best. So yeah, I hope that me sharing about myself and these, the things that have helped me or the stumbling blocks that I've been through are helpful. Because something that I really try to do in the podcast and in social media, where I don't feel like I'm a great social media person, but what I try to do is present the tips being useful. Like I don't feel like something that just goes viral, something that is just for entertainment purposes, which is fine. Like I'm not saying that those things aren't good in their own way. But I feel like if people hear more about what other people did, or can see themselves in another person who's also purpose-driven, who also feels like they're creative, that they can start to navigate creating their career and stuff. Because one thing that I feel like is very apparent is that society isn't made for like the out-of-the-box, creative, I don't know if rebel or rebellious, but like the people who don't just want to commit to one job or aren't just money motivated. Those are the things that are challenging, because once we know that that's who we are, and we're trying to fit into the structure of society and like the way that things are currently working, then that gets really hard, because it's like, what's wrong with me? And the answer is nothing. Nothing is wrong with you or with people who are purpose-driven, who are creative, who are intuitive, who are want to do things a different way at work, in their lifestyles. Nothing is wrong. It's just that society hasn't built the corporate ladder, the career structures for us. So we have to be able to know the rules and bend them and work with them in our own way. We have to figure out what works for us and what are deal breakers. We have to be open, but not too open, I think, because everything kind of has limits, and moderation. So yeah, let me check in on time because I want to be mindful. Okay, 5 more minutes. I usually about do 30 minutes or so. But yeah, that's, I think, a check-in on me. I do these Instagram lives once a month. And there's new people in my kind of space, very small space here on Instagram. So I wanted to give a little introduction or reintroduction to myself, my platform, my services, a little bit about my background and how I support people such as you all and who kind of I think like me. So yeah, I really hope this was helpful. If there's any other questions, I'm gonna wrap up in a few minutes, so let me know. And this Instagram or these Instagram lives live on my what do you call it? Not wall. I'm thinking Facebook, but on the grid. And so if you don't have a chance, okay, great. And if you don't have a chance to join live, for all of those who are rewatching, please feel free to send me your questions or comments or anything that's on your mind, because I really appreciate the feedback. This is a one woman, one person show. So I'm learning a lot about social media. I'm learning a lot about my own ways of showing up on online and on socials. So yeah, I'm very appreciative. I think I'm gonna wrap up there because actually I think that's it. Those are kind of all the messages that I had for today. So thank you so much for being on my live. The next one will be in June, and I do these on the first Monday of the month. So until then, have a great one.